Hi everyone, welcome back to Visually Hidden Selects. I'm Peter O'Brien, and today I would like to talk to you about Trainspotting from 1996, directed by Danny Boyle and starring Ewan McGregor, Jonny Lee Miller, Robert Carlyle, Ewen Bremner, Kevin McKidd, and Kelly Macdonald. This is Danny Boyle's second feature film after 1994's Shallow Grave. He had previously worked quite a bit in television, directing both episodes and TV movies. This is also his second collaboration with Ewan McGregor, who starred in Shallow Grave. And Trainspotting is really kind of Ewan McGregor's breakout role. This is the film that kind of put him on the map insofar as not only a leading man, but also just an international actor is concerned. And it's also kind of the film that got him the role of young Obi-Wan Kenobi in Star Wars Episode I: The Phantom Menace, which was cast within a year of this film coming out. And Shallow Grave is really more of a suspense thriller, which is a very different kind of film than Trainspotting. So it's just a great display of talent on both of their parts, being able to diversify between genres as well as roles. The film takes place in Edinburgh, Scotland during the late 1980s and 1990s, and follows Mark Renton, played by Ewan McGregor, and his friends who are all primarily addicted to heroin. And throughout the course of the film, Renton struggles with the ups and downs and turmoil involved in his addiction and the challenges of overcoming it. This film is based on a book of the same name written by Irvine Welsh and published in 1993. The book was also adapted into a stage play, and Ewen Bremner, who plays Spud in the film, was a part of that stage play production, so when it came time to casting, he just kind of transitioned easily into the film. But the play is what really kind of helped break the story down into a linear narrative. The script for the film was written by John Hodge, who had previously worked with Danny Boyle on Shallow Grave. He also wrote Danny Boyle's subsequent films A Life Less Ordinary, which also starred Ewan McGregor, and he adapted The Beach from a novel by Alex Garland. In the film, they also decided to focus on the character of Renton, who kind of acts as a narrator and helps guide the audience through this story. And what's truly astounding is just how well the characters come across in spite of all of their flaws and shortcomings. This film certainly does not glamorize the idea of drug abuse, drug use, or heroin addiction. It does have a very stylized approach to it visually, but by no means does it make it look as glamorous as other films like, say, Pulp Fiction. In fact, visually and narratively, it's very confrontational. There are a lot of things in this film that can make you uncomfortable at certain times, and maybe even haunt you after the fact. I really like this movie, and I really want more people to experience it, but it can be a very challenging experience. Even though it's about heroin addicts who are strung out, the film starts with this jolt of energy that just kind of carries the viewer through with this really fun chase sequence that's set to Iggy Pop's Lust for Life. And it's cross-cut with all of this information that we're getting visually about the main characters and their lifestyles and their relationships. The first 6 minutes of the movie, before the title even comes on screen, really kind of set the tone and the pace for this film. There's also quite a bit of humor in this film, and so in that way it kind of mirrors life because there's humor in life, and there's also tragedy in life, and especially in terms of heroin addiction and drug addiction. You know, one of the things that Renton says in the beginning of this film, he states why they do heroin, and it's basically, it's the ultimate euphoric experience. He specifically equates it to the best orgasm you've ever had multiplied by 1,000, and you're still nowhere near the experience that they're having while on heroin. But in that same breath, you see the effect that it's having on them physically, on them mentally, on their friends and families and girlfriends. It's really kind of a self-destructive journey that they're on. And right at the very beginning, after all of this is explained to the audience, Renton decides he's going to quit. And that kind of kicks off the movie and the up and down journey that he has with his addiction. I think the thing that really allows the audience to go on this journey is their connection with Renton as the narrator, and he wastes no time establishing that connection. He has this great monologue in the narration at the beginning of this film, the choose life monologue, which was so popular they made it into posters. I'm not even joking. You could go to the store and get a poster of just the text of this monologue from the opening narration of this film. Choose life, choose a career, choose a family, choose this, that. And he just goes on this tirade of basically conformity and why he doesn't choose life. He chooses heroin. But in the end, that kind of comes full circle for him. This film has one of the greatest soundtracks ever, and there is no score. All of the songs in the film kind of act as the score to illustrate the emotional highs and lows of the character and sort of act as an emotional anchor for some of the more poignant moments. The film is really locked into the music. Like, I can't even think of the songs in this movie without picturing the scenes from this movie. It really is just kind of like one long music video mixtape soundtrack. And the editing and the cinematography really tap into that music video vibe where it's playing around with the image, it's playing around with the composition, and it's playing around with even some of the surrealist aspects of the story and characters. There's a scene early in the film where Renton is trying to get off of heroin, and according to him, heroin makes you constipated, and he is no longer constipated. So he has to go to the bathroom, and the best he can do is the worst toilet in Scotland. The scene is punctuated by him climbing into the toilet, which is basically where his life is, and you can imagine where it goes from there. Another great use of metaphorical visual storytelling in this film is, well, of course you're dealing with heroin addicts, so at a certain point in the film, Renton overdoses and he just sinks into the ground. And his point of view becomes basically looking out of his grave. So he just has this like carpeted tunnel vision looking up from his 6 feet submersion. And this leads up to, I think, my favorite scene, which is when Renton is basically detoxing. He just goes to some really dark places that have already been touched upon in the story up to this point, but now it's playing out in his mind as he struggles with the worst possible nightmares he can imagine, all the while just lying in bed. It's really a very well-constructed sequence, and basically all of his demons just come at him at once, and this is kind of the turning point not only for the story, but his character as well. As I said, this is Ewan McGregor's breakout role. He is the main character, but the entire supporting cast is really fantastic as well. I really like Jonny Lee Miller's character, Sick Boy. Specifically his obsession with the Sean Connery James Bond films. It's just a nice little character trait that weaves in and out of the story. It's that little extra touch of character that, yes, while they're all the same in that they're addicted to heroin, they are not all the same character. And this movie really was a kind of a springboard for everybody involved. You know, Jonny Lee Miller has had a tremendous career, both on television as well as in films. Robert Carlyle, he's a great character actor that just pops up in some of the most interesting places, and his character in this film, Begbie, is pretty intense. And Ewen Bremner, Kevin McKidd, and of course Kelly Macdonald, I just love all of these characters with their flaws and all. You know, I've known people in real life who have struggled with addiction, and this film kind of just gives you a pretty good insight into that personality type. And it goes even further with the sequel, which is set about 20 years later. In 2017, they released T2, Trainspotting, and it picks up 20 years later with the same characters from this film, and you get to see their growth and how the events of this film affected those relationships. And it really is, in my opinion, a nice compliment to the original, you know? It's not a carbon copy, and it doesn't have the same kind of flair that this one has, but it does have a sense of maturity about it, and it does have some very nice growth both thematically and narratively and even technically. And this is more than just a drug movie, you know? A lot of people might be turned off by the idea of watching a movie about heroin addicts, but really it's a film about friends and how they sometimes grow apart and how they sometimes fall out of sync or out of touch with each other. So the drug aspect is really just kind of almost a superficial novelty of this story. The core is really about these characters and how strong their bond is, and then how weak it is, and basically how it dissolves over time, which I think is something that a lot of people can relate to. So that's it for Trainspotting. I really hope you like this recommendation, and don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss any future selections. If you do watch Trainspotting, please leave us a comment and let us know what you think of the film. We will be discussing it at length on the next Visually Hidden Selects podcast, so be sure to tune into that. Until next time, see ya!